They walk in that room, they become yours. And you got this energy inside your soul that says, I am the number one determinant of the success or failure of my students. Hey, y'all, when you get back, kick some butt. I'll see you in the winner's circle celebrating your victory. Let's go. 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 Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, everybody.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 231 of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in this morning. We got at the top of the list, we got Mona Obermolak out in Orlando, Florida. She said good morning to myself and the Queen. We got Val Foster, Solomon Bazue Jr., Michael Benton out in Cincinnati, Ohio. We got Constance Sherrod in Pearl, Mississippi. Grace Castaneda in Houston this morning, Houston, Texas. Mia Lange is in Euless, Texas. Takesha High is in Virginia. Rodney Richardson's in Hampton, Virginia. Ronald Pugh is in Cedar Hill, Texas. LaKenya Robin is in the building. Lisa DeBose Walker, Waco, Texas. Tashika Truesdale is in Atlanta. Lysandra Brackens and Tashika, make sure you register for the NABC conference, National Alliance of Black School Educators. It'll be in Atlanta this year. I'm all set for November 21st. So make sure that you register. It's going to be dynamite. Go to nabse.org, nabse.org. Lysandra Brackens is in North Carolina. Wanda Harris is in South Carolina. I met her. She's fam, but I met her in person for the first time when I was in Orangeburg this week. She's even an author, gave me a copy of the book. I got to post it too. Good to see you, Wanda. We got Tashika Truesdale is in the building. I said that when Yolanda McKinney is in the building down in Texas. If you didn't see the interview about maybe 2-3 weeks ago now with myself and Yolanda and others, make sure you check that out. Great session we had. Where we at? Takesha High. She said, happy birthday. Does that mean me or does that mean somebody? Mine is October 22nd, so I still got a little bit of time before mine comes in. Marsha Poe, I'll be doing mine from Montego Bay. I'll be doing the session from Montego Bay when it's here too. Marsha Poe is in San Diego in the building. Appreciate you waking up early with us every Saturday, Marsha. Dr. Sonia Matthews is in the building, Waldorf, Maryland. Hayward John is in the building. If you missed that interview with him last week and my other guest, then make sure you go back to the YouTube channel and check that out. It was on fire. He was on fire. He was blazing. We got the Queen of the Castle in the building. Kimberly Broughton Kafele. She's here. We got Adrian Young, Newport News, Virginia. I'm getting ready to shut it down, y'all. I came on a few minutes late. Dr. McKee Vegeta, Principal Dr. McKee Vegeta is in Calumet City, Illinois. September Devon Vance is in the building. Otis Kitchen II is in the building. John Hirricks, and I should say Otis Kitchen, I hope everything is good with you with the weather. I'm going to talk about that in a little while. Otis is down in Tampa. John Hirricks, Denton, Texas is in the building, and Dr. Roz Gaskins, I see ya. And Jacqueline Harriet, I see you up there in Nova Scotia. Good to see you. Good to see you. Dr. Sheikah Houston down in Chester, South Carolina. I see you. I hope y'all are good too with that weather, man. We're going to talk about that in a little while. As a matter of fact, let me just say real quick, Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor would Create and Educate every Saturday morning, 10:30 Facebook Live, and preceded by Sean Hurt at 10 o'clock Facebook Live, then myself at 10:55, and then and we call ourselves, we are Super Saturday. And then Josh Tovar and Dr. Mari Moreno. I'm trying to work on that Spanish, man. It's on Sunday at 7 o'clock, right? So let me shut it down, y'all. I see all y'all. I see you. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button. And let me holler at Lou Sanders, because I always like to end with my Jersey fam. So I see you, Lou Sanders. Good to see you. He been rocking with us from the beginning. And yeah, go Knicks, man. We got the local homie, Carl Anthony Towns, coming back home to New York. He's from New Jersey, so we're excited about that. But to everybody out there, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 231 of the AP and New Principals Academy. For those of you that may have missed us for the past 2 weeks, or even last week, I told y'all I gotta transition out of all that yelling I do, man, because I'm gonna be 64 next month, and sometime when I do that yelling and screaming like the video I showed before we come on, I be feeling something, man. It's not good. And sometimes when I do my I'm on fire, I feel something sometime, man. So it's like, that's like a warning sign. So like so from now on, I'm just gonna let you know. I'm gonna ask you the question. How are you feeling, right? And that matters. Got the mirror up. How you feeling today, right? You had a long week. Week might have been good. Week might have been tough. May have been whatever, everything in between. But here we are on Saturday morning, and the intent of this is, number one, to inform, but number two, to inspire, and number three, to empower. That's why I would hope that's why you check in every Saturday morning, right? For the past 231 consecutive Saturdays, right? That we don't mean like I took some days off. I've had no days off, 231. So I want you to know, in terms of me, despite the fact that I some of you may have seen on Facebook yesterday that I caught a 7 o'clock a.m. flight to Vegas yesterday, get off the plane, go to the Planet Hollywood and deliver a keynote. I was supposed to stay there last night and do this broadcast from my hotel room, but I was sitting in that room and I got bored. I got homesick. I said, I don't want to be here. So I've changed my flight, caught a red eye last night at 10 o'clock. I landed in Newark at 6 o'clock this morning, and here I am. So let me let you know, that deserves me to scream right now that I'm on fire, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to let you know that I'm on fire, right? And that don't even feel right, man. I normally wake up the block, but I just can't do it, man. I'm getting too old, man. I gotta preserve myself, right? So I'm on fire, y'all. I'm blazing. I am blazing. I'm sleep deprived. You can best believe that, but that's okay. This Saturday Academy is that important to me. Let me go through these announcements, man. First, Hurricane Helena. Thoughts and prayers to anybody, any of the fam out there that was in the path of that hurricane, whether direct or indirect, whatever it is. Just thoughts and prayers to you. I would have to believe that there are fam that were impacted by that, because our AP and New Principals Academy fam is quite extensive, right? It is quite extensive, right? So thoughts and prayers to anybody that was impacted by the most recent hurricane, right? Secondly, shout out to Kentucky Association for Psychology in the Schools. Again, Kentucky Association for Psychology in the Schools out in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They saw fit to bring the kid out to do a keynote to a room full of school psychologists, right? So that's a little different for me, but I'm gonna tell you something. I was ready. I was prepared. And they tell me it went very well. So shout out to them for bringing the kid in. And I the transportation to get there that night, y'all, that's a whole other story, man. My flight was delayed by like 5 hours or something. Car rental place was closed. Had to call one of them professional car service places. So they're going to inflate the price because they got me, right? They know I got to get there, right? From Nashville to Bowling Green. So they got me good, boy. they like Biggie said, why they have to stick me for my papers, right? So they got me on that. But I still delivered that keynote, baby. Then we went on to Orangeburg. Shout out to Orangeburg County School District, man. They gave me all the assistant principals. We spent the whole day. A lot of them, I think the whole room was AP and New Principals Academy fam, man. It was just a lot of them. And shout out to all of them, including Wanda, who's on here right now that I know of. And it could be more than I just didn't see your name. But shout out to Orangeburg County, man. Shout out to their superintendent, Dr. Foster. Shout out to Dr. Taylor that brought me in. And shout out to, man, just shout out to Orangeburg, man. I had a great day. It was a great day. And shout out to that lunch they gave me, man. No Subway sandwich at that spot, man. They gave me the real lunch, right? Some, I shouldn't be telling y'all I ate that fried chicken, but the doctor said moderation. So that was a moderation day, them 4 fried chicken legs, man. So here we go. Shout out to Culture Rise Conference, man. That's put on by my man Jimmy Casas and my man Garth. It's man. It was we were in Cypress, Fairbanks, Texas, and what a time we had, man. They saw fit to ask me to come in and do the opening keynote, so we had a good time. So anybody who was at that Culture Rise Conference put on by Jimmy Casas, shout out to you. And then lastly, shout out to the National Conference on Innovative Strategies, man, put on by my sister from Texas, man. That's Dr. Erica Johnson, man. She did a great job with that. We had a great time in Vegas at the Planet Hollywood Hotel. Enough on that. I'm rocking Frankie, man. Y'all remember last week, wore my Frankie Beverly hat. I bought this hat for Frank, for my tribute to Frank. I don't own any white hats, right? I bought this just so I could match Frankie, right? But last week I wore the white. Today I said, let me pull out my concert jersey, man. I mean, concert T-shirt, and just continue to pay homage, pay tribute to the late great Frankie Beverly, man. I've been listening to his music every day since he transitioned. I haven't missed a day, man. Just listening to his music, and the music is better than I even thought it was because I'm hearing it differently now. Right. So shout out to Frankie Beverly. Welcome to the first timers. If this is your first time, I appreciate you being here. However, if this is your first time, that means you missed 230 sessions. You missed some serious fire, right? So go to the YouTube channel, AP and New Principals Academy, and subscribe. Once again, subscribe. Let me say it again. Subscribe and hit the notification bell once you subscribe so that you're notified in case you forget that we're live. Right? We got 22,600 subscribers right now. That's phenomenal, man. But I'm more than pleased about that. But guess what? It's over 100,000 APs in the country. There's probably about 200,000 plus. There's at least 100. There's over 100,000 principals in the country. So the 22,000, as phenomenal as it is, I really want to get up into the hundreds. So if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button on the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. I shouldn't have to say this anymore, but just in case somebody hasn't been with me for a minute, we're back on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We weren't there for a minute, but we're back, right? So make sure that you tune into your favorite platform and watch us live. The books that coincide with the platform, first, the Assistant Principal 50. If you don't have your copy, get your copy. You can go to your other device right now, or go to your browser, hit a different tab, and go to Amazon and get your copy. This book, man, this is used in so many universities, man. So many. So make sure you get a copy of this book, and professional development, obviously. The Assistant Principal Identity, make sure you get yourself a copy. The Aspiring Principal, so that's Aspiring Principal or Aspiring AP. Make sure you get your hands on this. The Principal 50. I don't care what your level is, aspiring, assistant, new, that's for you too. And then, is my school a better school because I lead it? But I'm really excited because the new joint is out for pre-order. I posted it this week. Maybe many of you saw it. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? 50,000 words I wrote in 18 days in the month of May, man. I'm excited. It's moving fast. ASCD shocked me because this was supposed to be on pre-order in October. They sent me an email last week. They said it's up and running. Pre-order sales, not the book. That's not even in production yet, but pre-order sales. So you can go on the website on ascd.org. I will put it on my website next week. I'll do it today, but for next week. And then you can just go to principalkafele.com and pre-order, because I'm gonna put it in the atmosphere right now. That book, What is My Value Instructionally to the Teachers I Supervise, that's gonna be a blockbuster. I mean, ain't nothing out there like it. Just a book that focuses on whether you, the person in your mirror, is of value, is of substance, not in the broad sense, but in the narrow sense, relative to the instructional aspect of your leadership. Do your teachers benefit from your presence in the building instructionally, pedagogically, and thereby students have a higher probability for success? That's what that book is about, and I am excited about this book. So pre-order that book now. Be sure to like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page for the written Sunday morning commentary every Sunday. Let me do my monologue real quick. I'm gonna keep it short, y'all. No sermons today. I'm gonna keep it short. Last week, I talked to you in my monologue about the two posts I wrote on September 17th and September 22nd when I was battling with the superintendent, which I'll leave nameless, but I think that one of my guests knows him well, Dr. Wortham, but I'll leave him nameless. But I was in a battle and I was suspended and I had a termination hearing. But once that hearing occurred on September 22nd, 2004, and them hundreds of people, if not thousands, that showed up at that board meeting who were outside, including my entire school, staff, and students, that board heard them and they heard me and voted unanimously that I did nothing wrong. I just stood up and protected my students, but I paid a price for it. I protected them. I was advocating for them. I was fighting for them. I paid a price. But to this day, 20 years later, I am proud of the way I conducted myself, despite the fact that I was all over the media, all over the television news, all over the radio news, all over the newspapers. I'm proud of myself. And if I had it to do all over again, I'd do it exact same way. No deviation. So I'm saying that to say this. My monologue is this. The posts, both of those posts had over 1,000 likes and a zillion comments. And the comments were saying the same thing. And I also posted on some of the Facebook group, leadership groups pages as well. So I kind of put myself out there because no one could have dug up and like did some investigating on the internet, on Google, and say, oh my God, look at this. Kafele was suspended 20 years ago. Nah, you can't find that. It's not there. But you can't come to Jersey and find some people and dig up some dirt on me because I've been putting it out there for years. I've never run from this. I've never hid from this at all. It's just that I went hard on it last week because it was the 20th anniversary. But I don't hide nothing. But here's the thing. People were writing on the threads the same thing. I needed this. I needed this. Kafele, I needed this. Kafele, thanks for posting. Thanks for your transparency. Thanks for your vulnerability. I needed this. I needed to hear it. This is what I'm going through right now. Kafele, they sending me inboxes. People wanted to tell me their story, right? So it's like everybody need to hear it. So here's my monologue, and I'm gonna keep it brief. Somebody said, brief, you already in it heavy. Listen. If you're somebody out there and you needed to hear my story of September of 2004, here's my question to you. If you needed it and you read it and you listened to the monologue last week where I went off, my question to you is, what are you doing about it? That's my question. Principal Kafele, I needed this. I'm thankful that you said that. But now I'm gonna flip it back on you. So what are you doing? How, said differently, how are you moving? Right? How are you moving? Are you moving strategically to ensure that your professional life is what you need it to be? Right? Because see, if you're going through stuff, your own stuff, don't have to be my stuff, but you're going through your own stuff, and now you're walking in that building stressed out every day, beaten down every day, broken every day. You can't be performing optimally. That's impossible because you are broken. You're broken. You got a pencil by the chance? You are broken. I'm looking for a pencil so I can make this an object lesson, right? I don't want to use an ink pen and splatter ink all over my place, right? But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So pretend I got a pencil in my hand. Snap. That's you when you walk in the building. Man, I wish I had a pencil, man. Nobody has pencils these days unless you an accountant, right? So and I don't even know if they have them these days, right? But again, you going through something. So and you going through it, it's weighing on you. You feel defeated. You feel warm, you feel burnt out. You feel stressed out, you feel overwhelmed, you feel overburdened, and you feel broken. Boom. How you gonna go into that school and lead optimally in your broken? It don't work that way, y'all. So I'm asking you the question, how are you moving? Because see, that's how I was feeling. And I told you last week what I did. I went on and weathered the rest of the year, but then I bounced, if you don't mind my slang, and I went to Essex County Vocational Technical Schools in Newark and got a reset and won the Milken Award. I see you, DeLacy, won the Milken Award. That means somebody recognized me as one of America's top educators. I said, all right, you got me here. You smeared me in the media. Let me go next door. Let me go somewhere else where where my style is respected and appreciated. Maybe you somewhere where your style's not respected and appreciated, or whatever the reason. Okay, then my question again, let me stop because I'm doing a sermon. How you moving differently? That's my question to you. How are you moving differently? What are you doing? What measures are you putting in place? What does your plan look like? What is your vision for yourself? Or are you going to endure that despite the fact? Like imagine, hey, my guest in the bottom there, forgive me, I did not plan to go this long, but these comments are like keeping me going. Imagine that job is breaking you. And then you walk through your front door at your home broken. Ooh. Y'all hear me? The job is breaking you, and then you walk home to your significant other or your children or your whomever's in the crib, and you're walking in broken. Then now you're no good to multiple entities, not just the school. You ain't good to home. Because your spirit is broken. So I'm asking you, how are you moving? What are you doing? Principal Kafele, I needed to hear that. All right, I got you. But what you doing about it? That's the real question, right? So I'm gonna leave that right there. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button, hit that repost button. Let them know we are here for our Saturday morning AP and New Principals Academy. And I got 3 dynamite guests. I don't know if this was the day for me to be having that monologue when I got 3 superintendents sitting out there, but you know, it's all good. So let me bring them up here now. Let me bring them up here. Here they are in the building. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm glad to see y'all, man. I'm glad to see you. Dr. Roberto, we didn't, I got to do this live because we didn't get to do it before. We just let it flow. We just let it flow, right? We're going to be on here for about 2 hours, I guess. And, you know, just be mindful of the fact that I have a whole 9-page agenda. So when you all are answering questions, if you feel like you're getting ready to get that spirit hitting you and you get ready to do that whole lecture, just remember I got a whole agenda, man. Just keep that in mind. Hey, y'all, everybody good? Let me read these bios real quick. Dr. Wortham sent me that long one. and I was trying to edit it, and I said I can't. So I said to myself, I just got to go with it, because there's nothing in here I can cut out. You know, it's too much in here that can inspire somebody else. So y'all listen up. I'm gonna read fast, so when you hear me stutter, it's because I'm going so fast, right? Dr. Deborah L. Wortham is an educator, best-selling co-author, elder, professor, and nationally recognized lecture circuit presenter. A native of Chicago, Illinois, Dr. Wortham is prepared spiritually and educationally. She is the former superintendent of the school district of the city of York in York, Pennsylvania, and the Steelton High Spire School District in Steelton, Pennsylvania. She was the first locally elected Roosevelt Union Free School District superintendent in 11 years. During her tenure, the district moved from state takeover to good standing. Dr. Wortham served as the first African-American female superintendent of the East Ramapo Central School District in Spring Valley, New York, where all 12 K-8 schools reached good standing. Still fond of the Roosevelt Union Free School District, Dr. Wortham returned in 2020. With the board's leadership, staff, support, and the commitment of students and the community, the Roosevelt Union Free School District is once again rated by the New York State Education Department as good standing. Thus, on July 1, 2024, like yesterday, Dr. Wortham took a bow and retired from the Roosevelt Union Free School District. Her credentials include doctorate in educational leadership from Nova Southeastern University, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, master's degree in reading from Morgan State University, Baltimore, Maryland, a bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin, and an honorary doctorate of humanities from the Anointed by God Ministries Alliance and Seminary, New York, New York. Dr. Wortham's best-selling co-author of The STEM Century, It Takes a Village to Raise a 21st Century Graduate. Her book, Setting the Atmosphere for Leaders and Learners, was released in February 2024. The book was featured in the Superintendents Association Administrators Journal in August 2024. She received Elementary Teacher of the Year and Dissertation of the Year. Dr. Wortham is featured in several educational videos, has written numerous chapters for various books, and has traveled extensively lecturing on different topics. And finally, her most recent community highlights include the 2024 National Finalist for the Superintendents Association Women in Leadership Superintendents Category. Award was presented in February 2024 during the National Education Conference, the top 100 most influential educators in New York State. 2020 Education Expert by Market Scale. 2023 East Ramapo Shiro Award, the Martin Luther King Jr. Service Award, the Rockland County School Board Association Award of Excellence, Mid-Hudson School Study Council Educational Leadership Award, the Kujichagulia Award, that means self-determination, Town of Hempstead, and Leadership Award, Nassau County, New York, NAACP. I couldn't delete any of that. We just had to go with it. Good stuff, good stuff. Dr. Joanna Roberto, she sent me some stuff too. I said I got to go with it. That's what happens when you bring on superintendents, man. So is an experience, and because they done a lot. Is an experienced and respected student-focused leader and lifelong learner. She was appointed Director of Education at the Grand Erie District School Board in 2020 and leads a district spanning 4,000 square kilometers. They use the metrics up in Canada. Y'all know that. I don't know when I'm breaking the speed limit when I'm driving them cars, because it's saying kilometers, you know. But anyway, encompassing the city of Brantford and the counties of Brant, Haldeman, I probably butchered that, and Norfolk. The district serves more than 28,000 students, including students on education services agreements with 6 nations of the Grand River. I always miss this word up. Mississaugas, is that how you pronounce that? All right, of the Credit First Nation. Joanna's extensive education, professional and leadership experiences have shaped the commitment to creating and fostering learning environments focused on well-being and belonging, places where students, staff, and communities are inspired to grow together and achieve full potential. Under her leadership, Grand Erie launched a vision to learn, lead, and inspire. It's a commitment she makes in her work each day. Student achievement is at the core of everything we do, and the system grows when it is supportive of all students, of all educators and staff. Continuing to foster a strong culture of learning with high expectations at all levels will ensure our decisions positively impact student improvement. She began her career in education as an elementary teacher in 1997 before transitioning to a role of Ministry of Education. She later returned to her hometown of Niagara Falls, where she held progressive roles at the District School Board of Niagara, including teacher, vice principal, principal, and 8 years as superintendent of the education, curriculum, and student achievement. At Grand Erie, she has led the development of the annual learning and operating plans, equity, and mental health plans, seeing them implemented with a focus on learning, well-being, and belonging. Under her leadership, new approaches were launched to support growth through kindergarten and high school recruitment strategies and campaigns. Her focus on well-being and belonging supported new initiatives for Indigenous education, student wellness, and equity action. And finally, Joanna's learning journey has included both master's and doctorate in education, and she has presented her research on leadership and school achievement internationally in France and Belgium. She's a board member for the EQAO Modernization Committee, Brock University Board of Trustees, and the Niagara University Teacher and Learner Advisory Committee. Whew. Good stuff, good stuff. One more, y'all. Dr. Shannon Vincent Raymond is a retired superintendent on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, where she served for the past 7.5 years. Former principal, assistant principal, teacher, Dr. Vincent Raymond currently serves as the adjunct professor at her alma mater, Xavier University of Louisiana, in the Educational Leadership Program, a conference speaker, consultant, leadership coach. During her 27.5-year educational career, she has worked in many leadership capacities and uses all of those experiences to coach and mentor new and aspiring teachers, teacher leaders, and administrators. Some of her most significant accomplishments as superintendent have been increasing the graduation rate from 66.8% in 2015 to 88.4% above the Mississippi state average. In 2022, improvement of all 4 schools by at least 1 letter grade, according to the state accountability system, improvement of 2 of the 4 schools by at least 2 letter grades, according to the state accountability system, and retiring in December, leaving the high school 5 points from an A rating, according to the state accountability system, and attaining an A during the 2023 accountability cycle. Additionally, the district that was 1 point above an F in 2015 upon arrival reached success as a B district when the scores were announced at the end of the school year, 5 months after retiring. These academic improvements are significant, as there has not been sustained academic improvement in the district in any of these areas in the past 2 decades. Dr. Vincent Raymond attributes much of this success to having been blessed to be selected as the longest serving district superintendent since 1995, and having the trust and dedication of hardworking students, employees, teachers, parents, and school leaders who believed winning was possible. And finally, the quotation that has driven Dr. Vincent Raymond's work for her entire leadership career is inspired by Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Strong stuff. Hey, y'all, let's have a conversation. I want to start with Dr. Wortham. Dr. Wortham, I wrote on my notes, I said, let me just put this personal note out here real quick. I remember many years ago when I was just this young principal who was on the come up, who had a vision of doing big things in America and beyond. But there were not, in terms of, there are Black presenters out here always, but in this space, it was limited, right? ASCD, it was extremely limited. So somehow, some way, I met you. And you became, this is my first time telling you this, I'm saying it to the world publicly. You became that role model for me. You became that I see me because I see you, because you were already doing it. You were big time. I'm like, I want to be big time like Dr. Wortham. That's what I'm trying to do, because if I can get up there, I can impact a lot of people. So I just kept watching you from afar. You didn't know, but I was watching you from afar. And then I kept seeing you become the superintendent and all that kind of stuff, because when I met you, that's not what you were doing yet. And then here we are together, in this space. So I say that to say to the fam out there, find that person that's doing what you want to do and just watch them. Watch how they move. right? Watch how they do what they do. Watch how they got from point A to point B. And then you may not be an exact replica of them, but at least you have a model, an example of excellence, an example of what it is that you're trying to become, right? So I just want to thank you personally for just being you.
Wow.
Which helped me to become me as Principal Kafele.
Wow.
Right? Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Salute you.
So
Yeah.
so with that said, Doc, you're multidimensional. And you know, some of us out here know, and some of this on this platform know that, but I want to isolate the educator for a moment. As an educator, who is Dr. Deborah L. Wortham?
Wow. That is a great, great, great question. And when I get the answer, I'll text it to you. I'll send it to you. But I want to segue back to what you said. Find someone, take a page from their book, and then you write your own chapter.
There it is.
I think the last I checked, I'm on your show. This is your show. And so I've been clapping it up for you for years, So proud of you. But I think the proudest moment was when you stood as the keynote in my district. And I sat back and thought, look at him.
Okay.
It was the best superintendent's conference day. And that was in what, last year.
Last year.
And so I applaud you and I thank you so very, very, very much. You were such a blessing. So who is Dr. Deborah Wortham? Well, Dr. Deborah Wortham is written all in this book called Setting the Atmosphere. Hey, Rashawn. Hey. These are all my children.
That's my man.
That's my man. That is my man. And so on one of your sessions, you said you wrote 12 books. And you just said you wrote 50,000 words in a minimum amount of time. Those nuggets that you gave inspired me to write my book. And so I give it back to you. I give kudos back to you. Dr. Deborah Wortham is one that I believe who is called to be, and I'll say this, an educational evangelist. And that's why I've served in 5 districts, because once you do something and you do it well by the grace of God, then you go on. And that has been my calling. I will say in short form that my sister Lori encouraged me and gave me these words before she left, which developed who Dr. Wortham is. Before she passed, she said to promise her that I would be the best that I could be. So through my career, I've been not struggling, but on this journey to find out who is Dr. Wortham. Who is Deborah Wortham? And this is what I settled on so far, that if you are so great, who are you helping to make great? If you are all that and a bag of chips, who are you helping? So that's who Dr. Deborah Wortham is. I am an educational evangelist. I am called to serve, and I am called to help someone else move forward.
Before I give you this follow-up question, let me repeat what you just said. If hey somebody, I'm talking in my camera right now. If you are so great, who are you helping to become great? That matters. Because if not, then what's the basis of your so-called greatness? Right? Yeah. Somebody got to come on this ride with you. Somebody, you know, Doc. Given the pressures, the demands of the superintendency, it is not an easy job. The 3 of you know that. Given the stress, everything I talked about before in my monologue that can potentially accompany it, and us bringing that home, that spirit from whatever the day was or the week was, the month was, whatever it is. My question to you, despite all that, why the superintendency for you?
Wow. In my book, Setting the Atmosphere, there is a chapter called the Fit Checklist. And that Fit Checklist not only applies to becoming a superintendent, but it also applies to whatever position you desire to hold. Now, I knew that as an assistant superintendent on the road, as a consultant, I continue to say, well, make the recommendation. And you want to see the manifestation of all of your recommendations. And I will tell you the truth. I have to tell you the truth that one day I was in church and the pastor said, Sister Wortham, stand up. I stood up and he said, you're going to be a superintendent. I'm like, good, Pastor, great. Thank you so very much. He said it again. Stand up. You're going to be a superintendent. Great. And he said it a third time. And I said, now, Pastor, this is getting to be a little bit much. But what he didn't know was that I had applied to be a superintendent. And that calling came from the promise that I made to my sister to be the best that you can be. My desire to want to have that wider platform to be able to sow into other people. I will tell you that I am called the student's superintendent. We are there because we constantly ask ourselves, is it good for kids? And if it's good for kids, go for it. You were in my district last time, and you could see the students served as the MC. The students carried the superintendent's conference day. So my calling, why superintendent? Because I am called to develop, I'm called to encourage, and I'm called to serve. And that means going into those places and setting that atmosphere, making the air positive and moving forward so everybody succeeds.
Love it. Dr. Roberto, we met because you invited me to your world, Grand Erie District School Board, couple 2-3 years ago, something like that. Yeah, 2 years ago. And I had an opportunity to not only be a presenter, but to learn a few things relative to, I think about in the States when we're on land, either contiguous to or the actual land where the Native Americans, as we would call it here, would be, but that land is not typically recognized in a formal setting, as in being with you in your district. That recognition took place, and the celebration of local tribes in that First Nation. So I got to learn, in addition to coming out to present in a space that was very different from what I'm accustomed to, right? So with that said, and if you want to comment on that, any feel free as I ask you this question. On the education side, this same question for the three of you, because you're multidimensional. There's so many different aspects to all of us, but there's this education side, and that's the side that people tune in every Saturday to hear about. So who is Dr. Joanna Roberto as an educator?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for being here today and for inviting me and to be in the company of all of you. I'm honored, and I think it speaks volumes. We get to sometimes watch you on the other end, and so to be in the room with you is really special. So who am I?
Appreciate you.
I want to start off with with two things so that you can deeply understand where I am today and where I hope to continue to go. The first one, I believe, is deeply rooted in something very similar to what was stated earlier. It is the call to be of service, and to be, in my instance, I like student-centered. I'm always saying students first, right? What is our moral imperative, and how are we, right, going to serve those students so that they can reach their full potential? And that is really at the crux of who I am. It's at the core of my being. It always has been from the moment I walked into a classroom. And I think that's carried with me along my journey. And in order to really understand this person or an individual, you got to know their story. And we all know we all have a story. And my story came from my grandmother, who immigrated to Canada in 1950 and didn't speak a word of English, and in fact never did. She only knew her native language, and it was only oral. So she never went to school. She did not know how to read in her own language, let alone write. And I remember her saying to me that I came to this country to plant a seed, right? And she followed me in my educational journey until she was no longer with us and passed away. But every single milestone, she watched. And she couldn't, as I said, read. But what she could do, including my graduations, was run her hand across my diploma degree. And she would feel the embossed lettering, and she knew it meant something. And so for me, that was something that always carried me in my journey. And she kept on reminding me why she planted that seed. And I always say it is always about, when I bring the best out in you, it draws the best out in me. And that is essentially who I've been and who I continue to be, is to surround myself with great leaders who want to elevate the work and who really want to support students and reach their potential, but almost get them to that point where they have been successful and contributing members of society. And that is always at the core of my work. So essentially who I am.
I appreciate that. That's great stuff. So let's go to that superintendent question. It's not easy. It's not easy work. I take my hat off despite, I had four superintendents. No, I had more than four different districts. No, 3 different districts, 4 different schools, but multiple superintendents. I take my hat off to these superintendents, except one of them. But I take my hat off to them, because the work, it just never ends. I'm sure that there's never a time when you can say, matter of fact, I forget, I'm sure, I'm positive, I'm certain, there's never a time that you could say, there's nothing else to do, let me just chill. There's always work. But those challenges, those pressures, those demands, those obstacles that accompany that work that you're passionate about. My question to you is the same question: why do it at the superintendent level? And that's for you, Dr. Roberto.
Why?
Yeah.
My glasses are going to fall off. I want to go to this image for those of you who are online, and knowing your moral imperative, what your purpose is. And I think this is endless work. I want to be really clear with you. This is work in which you need to show your vulnerability and your humility at its finest. And you need to surround yourself with a really strong team who energizes you to see your worth. Because you can set a vision, right? But you need others to help you move that along. And you need others who are different in their approach and their style and their thinking, because we can complement one another. And when I come to the why, I always ask myself, if we do this, what is our evidence of impact? So if I am in this role as director, which is equivalent to a superintendent, what is my impact going to be? And I ask myself that every day, very similar to the question that you ask, and that is, why is your school better because of you? I have taken that statement and I have elevated that with the principals and the system leaders in my district to ask them, why is this district better because of us? Right? Why is this district better because of me? And I think that those are powerful, reflective questions that we need to ask ourselves at all times. Embedding that into our behavior is a critical aspect of actually taking that, right, and moving into action. And this is a lonely job. At the end of the day, right, you have a team, but you take it all on. And people don't realize how lonely this job is. And in order for you to get to past that point, you got to go back to your why. And your why is your moral imperative. Is that I believe that if I am continuously leading, right, in a manner in which is not only collaborative, but in a manner that is focused on students, their well-being and their achievement, right, that at the end of the day, we have built contributing members of society. At the end of the day, we have elevated their confidence and their potential. And if we can continuously gather our evidence of impact around this, right, it will give you your moral imperatives of why you do what you do, because it is a difficult role and it is a difficult job. And often, I always say, we sometimes get away from the learning agenda. And so how do we ground ourselves back into that learning agenda? And I think that becomes my purpose, is to constantly be focused and driven on that and have relentless leadership to know why you're doing what you're doing is all about the greater good. It's the sum of its whole parts. It's never about you.
Powerful stuff. You know, I gotta holler at the fam out there on the other side of my camera real quick off of something you said, and then I'm gonna go to Dr. Vincent. You know, hey fam, hear me somebody. Sometimes it's very easy for us to look at other people and say they got it going on, right? Like, yeah, they, you know, maybe they were blessed, maybe they were brought up in the right circumstances for them to be able to do various things that they do. Let me holler at somebody that may have those notions. You heard Dr. Roberto. She said, I took from you the title of the book you wrote. I'm gonna put it on the screen shamelessly. Is my school a better school because I lead it? But I've expanded this since then. Is my team, is my department, is my division, is my district better because I lead it? Hey fam out there, I'm just little old me from East Orange, New Jersey, man. You know, y'all know my story. I'm not gonna do a monologue. You know my story. You know my 5 years of high school. You know my nothingness, right? But I'm somebody that eventually came around. And I had a notion that question drove my leadership. Let's say that first. But soon after, or after I should say, not soon after, but after, I said that question is a question that all leaders should embrace. So I had the audacity. I'm preaching the fam out there right now. I had the audacity to take that question that I would ask myself every day at dismissal: is my school a better school because I lead it? And put it as the title of a book, wrote a 7-chapter book about the title, and it became a best-selling book. So I'm saying to somebody out there, don't look at somebody else. Don't look at the 4 of us and say, oh man, they got it going on. No, you got it going on. Don't limit yourself. Realize that there's greatness in you, but sometimes we don't tap into it, or we don't unleash it to let it just soar. So understand, there may be just like the Frederick Douglass quote, right? It could be some line that's in you that can impact the whole freaking planet. Don't look at somebody else. Look at you and ask yourself, what am I doing with my gifts and my talents? Enough said. Because I'll be done, got on here and preached a sermon, and then Dr. Wortham probably take over the sermon and preach the real sermon. So I'm just going to let it go, right? So, and Dr. Vincent, you know, we met in Lima,
Yes.
Ohio, and
Yes.
I didn't know you before that.
No.
And I got to know you out there, and I'd said to you, I need you on this platform. And
Yes.
and here we are. We were in Lima with Emmanuel Curtis, who's doing big things in Lima. Shout out to Emmanuel if he's on here, or we'll see the video later.
Yes.
And just doing big things. And I've watched you from afar ever since. So with that being said, again, the isolation of who you are on the educational side, who is Dr. Shannon Vincent?
Well, that's a very complicated question, because Dr. Shannon Vincent did not set out to be an educator. I have a degree in English from Xavier. I thought I was going to be a writer. I never wanted to be an educator, until I graduated and came back home. And my father sat me down, and he, first of all, wanted me to get a job to get off of his payroll, right? As most fathers do. Um, and I believe my father saw something in me that I did not see in myself. And so, shout out to parents who guide their children to the place where they see their children's gifts, and don't be afraid to do that. Um, and he said to me, Shannon, I see you teaching, I see you guiding young people, and you should try to substitute. I was a substitute teacher. I challenged the test and I started teaching ninth grade English, and I absolutely loved it. So that was the journey to education for me. My father always taught us to leave the world a better place than when we found it. And that's how I got into education. So, Shannon, as an educator, Dr. Shannon, as an educator, is always trying to leave the world a better place than how we found it.
Mm.
My father grew up without his mother. She died at a young age, from cancer. And he had to live with his grandmother in the housing projects of New Orleans. And so he, a lot of times, was living, pillar to post, having to fend for himself, and didn't get the opportunity to go to college. So we understood what college meant for him and what college meant for us. He went into the military. And so college was very important to him, for us. And we took that very seriously. So, from that perspective, everything that we've done since then has been a gift from our parents. They've sacrificed for us to have everything that we have and for us to be where we are. With that, the children that I've worked with, and I've noticed this, you know how you hindsight is 2020. Everything that I've done is to help children to see that it doesn't matter where your parents come from. It doesn't matter what your parents have or don't have. It doesn't matter your educational attainment of your parents. It doesn't matter if you grew up in the military. It doesn't matter if you don't have all of the things that your friends have. What matters is your ability to move past that to get where you want to be. I have a bunch of degrees. My sister is a wealth advisor, and my parents are regular middle class parents. We grew up in base housing in Biloxi, Mississippi, and it's all because of what our parents put in us, not necessarily what they could purchase for us. And so I take that into the educational space every day, and it has led me to appreciate and to work hard for children in spaces who have parents like my parents. And I believe that it has helped me to have some success in many places where I've served. I've been an alternative school principal. That was the hardest but most rewarding situation that I've worked in. And so, me as an educator, I just want to see kids win. And I do whatever it takes to see children win and see the communities win.
Just want to
And
see
so
them.
that's if I can wrap it, put it in a bow,
Yeah.
in a box, wrap it up, put a bow on it. That's whatever it takes to see children win, see their parents win, see the community win. That's what I'm going to do.
So let me ask you this. So all that work you just talked about in those various capacities, then you decide that you want to be a superintendent. So you want to be the head of an entire school district. And now you're not the one working directly with young people in the classroom as the classroom teacher. You're not the one who's leading the school where it's just one entity within a larger district. Here you are, the leader of a district with all the accompanying stress and trial and tribulation and challenges and obstacles, etc., that come along with it. My question, same question. Why the superintendency for you, Dr. Vincent?
I was on the coast for 20 years, 18 years. And for 18 years, there was one district that struggled. And I had applied the first time and they told me I was too young. Imagine that. And so I watched superintendents come and go, come and go, come and go. And so finally I said, okay, I'm going to apply again, because that one district was the D district, the F district, over and over and over again. And I felt like the time was right. And I felt like the Lord was leading me there. I had fixed schools here and there and everywhere. And I felt like that community deserved to win. And through prayer, through watching, through my experiences, I just felt like the timing was right. And I felt like the Lord led me there. And no exaggeration, from the time I put in my application, I even tried not to put the application in. The Lord woke me up. The application was due at midnight. I woke up in the middle. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock. I completed the application, got it in right before midnight. And It was the easiest process. They called me the next day, the interviews. I knew half the people who interviewed. It was the easiest process. And it seemed like it was just a smooth process to get through the entire interview and selection process. So I felt like the Lord led me there. And the work that we did there while I was there was the Lord's work. And they're on a good path. And I believe they'll be on a good path for a long time to come. So I felt like the timing was right. And I felt like the Lord needed me there at that particular time.
Love it.
So, yeah.
Here you are. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm looking for a post that was up here, and I can't find it because I wanted okay, here's I see the person. Let me just where is it? I'm wasting time. I gotta find this post. I gotta find this post. I gotta find it. I gotta find it. Y'all bear with me 1 second. I gotta find this. I gotta find this. Oh man, I'm gonna take about a second more, and then I gotta move on and try to find it while I go to the next question, because I wanted to address this person, because this person was reaching out for help, and there's so many comments that came after this post.
Okay.
All right, I tell you what, folks. I have her name. I just don't. I think no, was it? I don't know if it was Heidi. So I don't want to say it was Heidi, and it wasn't Heidi.
Okay.
All right, I'll find it. I'll find it. Let me keep going.
Okay, no problem.
All right. So anyway, y'all, let's get into some things here. But you bear with me, because in looking for that post, I let myself get a little unorganized. All right, here we go. So let me go to Dr. Roberto on this one to start off. I'm gonna ask you all this same question, but the superintendent's role, as in your case, director, but it's for all intents and purposes, the superintendent's role. In my mind, I interviewed for several superintendent positions. They were all recruitments, though. It wasn't like I wanted to be. I've never wanted it. It's just people, board members calling me. I'm not even going to tell you the districts because the stuff ain't even legal. But folks calling me like, we want you, and I don't want that, y'all. Come on now. No, we need you. And I go and sit through it, and it made me think about the superintendency a little bit different as folks would reach out to me for these interviews in these clandestine places, right? So that nobody would see us having this conversation. And And when I think about the superintendency, outside of school safety, which is I would think your number one priority, the layperson might think academic performance, but for me, I would think as a superintendent, the safety of everybody in that building is probably primary. And then coupled with that, the overall infrastructure. You can correct me if I'm wrong. This is just me like thinking about what this thing is. The overall infrastructure of an entire school district, and which is inclusive of funding of those buildings and the various other departments and so forth that have to be funded. I would think that that's right there at the core. But when I sat in those interviews, outside of that which I referenced, I said, but let me talk to y'all about the day-to-day now, right? I said, as a superintendent, I would say to them, you probably will not want me there very long when you hear what I'm about to say. As a superintendent, my number one priority outside of those two things I just said is the principals in the buildings, right? See, I could say student achievement, the students, the teachers, etc. No, each of those buildings in my mind, I've never done this before, so y'all can correct me in a minute. Each of those buildings is like a franchise within a larger company. And I need to know that the leader of the franchise, the CEO of the franchise, is on point, right? Because if the CEO of the franchise is on point, I can probably sleep a little more comfortably knowing that the organization within the building is functioning because of that CEO. So therefore, that person is my number one priority, that principal, right? So my question to you, and I'm gonna throw it at each of you, where do you stand as this principal being such a huge priority? And this I hope this is not too much pressure as far as this question. I don't think it is. What does your roles look like? Like let me be principal, since that's who I am, Principal Kafele. What does your roles as superintendent look like in that context I just framed, toward ultimately making me as phenomenal as I can be as principal, beyond just my inner drive to be successful? I'm looking at the superintendent. Where do you stand toward making me effective? Let me start with Dr. Roberto.
So, I actually immediately, when I thought about this, thought about me in my principalship as in a school. And that's kind of like where you start, right? You learn by doing. And I went right back to that experience and right back to the role of the superintendent and how they shaped me and provided me with ways to empower me both as a leader, but also more so as an influential leader at that school. And those were really key experiences for me because I had some outstanding role models that helped me to understand what it meant for the principal's voice to have system impact. Because sometimes we can be really focused in just on our school. And so what does it mean to really look at our work as leaders, as principals, leading from the middle on a large scale? And so that stayed with me, that resonated with me into my role as superintendent. So in Canada, you have superintendents and then you have the director.
Okay.
So just to give some context, I have 10 superintendents. And I have 72 principals, so 72 schools. And so for me, it's really important that I lead through the superintendents. Because as I left the principalship and became the superintendent under a director, that was the basis and the foundational skills that I needed to understand what it meant for me as a superintendent to empower the principals. And hence, I carried that with me as I became the director. So I have to do two things simultaneously in tandem, right? Is build the efficacy and the agency of the superintendents, right? To ultimately build the efficacy and the agency of the principals. Because at the end of the day, the principal has the sole responsibility of their school, right? It is their community. They know their context. They know their relationships. And so we have to be responsive to their needs. And so my philosophy with my superintendents and my vision that is on the ground right now implemented is that the superintendents are in their schools at least 3 to 4 times a week. And within their cadre of schools, whether they have 20 or whether they have 15 schools, they actually go even further in 2 or 3 of them, meaning they're there maybe once a week. Right? Because the only way we're going to be able to feed up and across the learning organization is to know exactly what the needs are in the schools. And the only way you can do that is to ensure that you are building and empowering your principals to the level of agency, to the level of instructional capacity, and into the level of really understanding how they respond to the needs of their community, which is staff, students, and parents, and how you build their own professional learning in order to do that, because they can't do it alone, right? So we have to be responsive to say, who are our central folks that are going to support them, and how are we as superintendents going to support them? And then that comes to the senior leadership table to say, this school needs X, because we don't look at each school and say, we're all going to give every school the same. Right? Well, we got to know what each school needs. And the only way we can do that is being present in schools and working very closely with our principals, because we cannot move a district without our principals. And that is an important part of our work. And we have to tell them, what we told them, and we got to tell them again that they are an important component of us when it comes to a district and when it comes to moving a district. And that ultimately builds agency, because it doesn't become us and them, right? It doesn't become principal and board, right? It actually becomes a team, right? And in order for us to pivot, or in order for us to move the district along a continuum, the only way you can do that is if you have the solidarity and the deep understanding of our respective roles and how we support one another. And that has got to be reciprocal at all times. You got to zoom in and you got to zoom out. You got to know what the individual school needs, what the individual principal needs, right? And then you got to pull that back and say, okay, now how does that fit in the grand scheme of a district, right? What is it telling us, right? What do we need to do more for our schools? What do we need to do more for our principals? And then how are we going to do that? And that work has to be done, like I said, in tandem with the superintendent. So I've got to build the senior team capacity, right? Because if they don't understand that connection, right, then we got a fundamental issue that we've got to start to go back to the basics and build grassroots. What are our beliefs, right? What are our roles, right? Because you want to walk into a school and into a room like this, whether it's virtual or in person, and you don't want to know who the principal is, who the superintendent is, who the instructional coach is, who the resource teacher is, because at that point in time, right, you were all sitting there, right, for what we talked about earlier, the collective good, the greater good, moving student achievement. And we're all learners. There are no titles in those rooms, right? It's what we do with our work and our roles to influence that afterwards.
I love it. I love it. Before I want to continue this same question with Dr. Wortham and Dr. Vincent, but before I do, I found the post. And this is the first of the 231 weeks that I've been doing this. This is the first time that I'm not the oldest person on the screen. I know you're public with your age, but I'm not going to say it, Dr. Wortham. I'll leave that to you if you wanted to. But I want you to talk to this young lady, Doc. I could easily just go ahead and throw my 2 cents at her, but I want you to do it. She said, I'm a first-year principal. I needed to hear this. I doubt myself all the time. Is this right for me? I think she's probably speaking for others who are on the call. Can I really do this? I've been asking myself the wrong question. I'm gonna turn this over to you, Dr. Wortham.
The answer is yes, you can. And I am so glad that you raised that question, because you raised something that many people, I'm sure, on this platform, they're asking today, or they've asked at some point in their career. And I have to say, I join you in that. And that's why I've embraced the philosophy of efficacy. And efficacy is the capacity to mobilize available resources to solve problems and promote development. Our goal as leaders, whether you're a superintendent, a principal, regardless, assistant principal, our goal is to build the of the people that we are with, either on our team, because confidence is the name of it. You need confidence to walk into a meeting. You need confidence to log on to a Zoom. So confidence then leads to effective effort, to hard work. And that hard work leads to achievement. So I've said to my principals, and here's this word, lavish. Principals, lavish your teachers. Feed the teachers so that they don't eat the children. Back it up. Superintendents, lavish your assistant superintendents. Lavish your principals. Feed them. Now that quote, when I saw that quote, I said, the philosophy of efficacy brings forth and promotes the response to that. Because so many times we see people in a performance goal orientation. But you, Principal Kafele, have created a safe space so that we don't have to perform. This platform promotes what we say as a learning goal orientation. It's okay not to know, but it's not okay not to know and not to learn. It's okay for you to say what you believe, what you feel, and seek help. And that's our role. Our role. We, at some point, as principal, we had to know everything.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know it, then you were banished. You were put in the corner. You weren't even CC'd back in the day on emails. But we've come to the point now where we know that we walk with our head held high, and what we know, we know. And if we don't know it, we can find out. We can Google it. We can go to YouTube University. But our confidence is the key. Build and become an efficacious leader. So here it is. In our world, I hold true to 3 B's, that we should be in those buildings, no matter what your title is, unless they're the 3 B's. What is it? The 3 B's. What stands with the letter B that would keep you from being in the classroom? That means if there's blood, okay, if somebody's sick, go to them. If there's a bullet, if there's safety issue, go to it. Or if it's your boss, if the board comes or whoever, go to it. Other than that, find yourself in the buildings. And here's another mnemonic for you: 4-20-80. I've built a concierge service, so that everyone is served. 4-20-80, that means superintendent, principal, we must visit at least 4 classrooms a day. 4-20-80. So you visit 4 classrooms a day, and what are you doing? You're inspecting what you expect. You're looking to check on the wellness of your staff. You're looking to make sure those learning targets are really learning and they're hitting the target. And so when you do that 4 times a day, 4 classrooms, going in, giving hugs, shaking hands, encouraging, building confidence, then that comes to 20 a week and 80 a month. I tell you, when you do that, you're exchanging the energy. You're giving energy, you're promoting energy, and then you know the sound of the house. Yeah. Every principal, every superintendent has to know the sound. I heard a music director say this, that he knew what songs to teach. And so when you know that you're putting out greatness, that's the sound. We would teach our young people affirmations. And one affirmation, find out how great you can be. And then you say, find out how great you can be. And if you take the first letter, I'll end with this. If you take the first letter from find out how great you can be, that comes up to Fajigabee. So that's the sound. When you hear someone say Fajigabee, that's the language. What have you built? What's the sound and the feeling tone of your house? I was in the mall and I heard someone say, Fajigabee. That was it. I don't know who said it, but my response was, The sound carries us. The sound builds confidence.
Love it. So, Dina, I hope that that was helpful for you. I saw the comment, and I wanted to make sure that we addressed that, right? And Dr. Wortham, there's our guy, Aníbal Salad, the good superintendent, right?
That's my guy.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
Yeah, he doing his thing, man. He doing
over
his thing
there
out
in
there.
Yonkers.
Yeah. Good to see you, my brother. And the hat, I'm paying tribute to Frankie Beverly. So we did this. This is the second week in a row. I'm rocking because that's what he wore on stage. This hat, a hat like this. All right, let's go. So same question. Let me go to Dr. Vincent, then I'm gonna come back to you, Dr. Wortham. And now look, y'all, it's 12-8. Y'all give me the slightly shorter answers, right? Because we ain't even get to them talking points yet. So give me the slightly shorter answers. Dr. Vincent, what do you think? Do I need to restate the question?
Yeah, I believe you. Yes, restate the question.
Yeah, I'm saying that, outside of those core responsibilities, school safety, the infrastructure of the district, I would think if I was a superintendent, those principles would be a major priority of mine, which would allow me to rest my head on the pillow comfortably at night.
Yeah.
What is it? So my question to you is, what does it look like from your vantage point to ensure that a principal is effective as one could ultimately make that person to be, for lack of a better way of phrasing that? What does that look like from the perspective of the superintendent?
So I'll tell you, the first thing is, and I learned this from, you've had two of my principals on your show, Dr. Joe Nelson and Dr. LaQuanta Nelson. Yeah. I mean, Dr. Joe Griffin and Dr. LaQuanta Nelson. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to have a great selection process. And when you have, and be involved in the selection process, when you're involved in the selection process and you know who you're choosing, and you know their background and what they can do on the front end, it helps you to know what they can do on the back end. So that we'll start there. The second thing I would say that was an advantage for me was I knew, and we had conversations about what my expectations were. They knew we were in a turnaround situation. They knew what the sense of urgency was. They knew that we only had a year to 2 years to turn things around. They knew the accountability model. They knew I was very serious about academics and culture and discipline. And so we all kind of said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We jumped in together. And I believe my alternative school background kind of helped to create a plan that we could work together. From that, I believe you set the goals, you set the mission, and then when you have people who know how to operate in your goal or within your goal, and they know how to do, my job was to support, to check in, to have, we still had monthly principals meetings. We still had our academic check-ins. We still did our data check-ins. but I kind of got out of the way. And then I gave additional support to those new principals, those who did not know how to do, those who weren't as familiar with turnaround processes. The turnaround leader term I learned from Dr. Joe Griffin, and he said, "Look, Doc, I'm a turnaround leader." And I was like, "Okay, just let me know what you need from me." And he's like, "I'll let you know what I need from you." And we had that relationship. And so that helped me to know that when he needed me, he would say, "Okay, this is what we need." But we had open lines of communication, and it worked. And so I believe that the superintendent and the principal's role has to be one of open communication that for some people goes outside of the quote unquote 9 to 5, right? We talked all the time, during school hours, after school hours, on the way home. What do you think about this? I was thinking we should try this. But it also could flex between a high level of support to less support, dependent upon what the principal brings to the table, and the situation of the district at the time and what the needs are. And I think that the superintendent has to be confident in his or her skills enough to flex back and forth and to be able to give that support where it's needed, but then back off when it's not needed without taking things personally.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to learn but still support. I hope that was a short enough answer, but still give you.
No, that was good. But you
Yeah.
know what caught my attention in a mighty way, the whole thing did. But when you said back off when not needed, and I would think I've never done the position, and as far as I know, I never will. But you know, God works mysteriously sometimes. But as far as I
Yes,
know,
he does.
I never.
And he will wake you up.
Yeah. but that, I would think that that's a skill that that many of us have to learn to back off, because one could say the same thing for the principalship relative to staff, right? Whether it be teaching staff or whatever staff in the building. So I love it. Let me go to Dr. Wortham on the same question, but I'm gonna add a piece to it, Doc. Just that from listening from Dr. Roberto and Vincent, it triggered another thought. Same question, but in addition to that, Doc, is there a place where the superintendent or superintendent staff, in this case, I just want to focus on superintendent, though. Forget what I said about staff. Superintendent, particularly if the superintendent has a principal background, is there a place where you become a teacher to the principal, right?
Wow.
So the same question, but just add that piece to it.
Okay, I think I've just resonated on that piece. Is there a place where the superintendent becomes a teacher? Am I right?
Yeah.
24/7. 24/7. I lived for Monday mornings when the entire cabinet would participate in a learning walk. And it was my opportunity to go into the classrooms with cabinet. Now, when I went into the classrooms, I talked to students, but the cabinet would look at the learning target and we would go empty-handed. No clipboards, no nothing. I didn't want anybody writing anything. I saw that comment in the chat that the teachers were intimidated when the principal would come in. It's about your demeanor and it's about your mission and your vision. And oh my goodness, the relationship. And so when you go into the classrooms, I participate in as many of the professional development sessions as possible. So I want to make sure that the professional development sits into the classroom, that it gets there. So when I go into the classroom, I've said to the principals, to the entire district, I'm looking for me. I am not looking for you, because if I don't see the professional development being implemented, then it's Deborah Wortham's fault. It is not your fault. So I need to back up and figure out, how do we make it look like what it's supposed to look like? And that takes the pressure off of, here they come, because we might have about 10 people with us. And so that number could be intimidated. But if you build those relationships and you know that we're trying to do this together, then we're going to focus on the business of the business. So it's my turn to go into the classroom, see what we see, know what we're looking for. Everybody knows what we're looking for, because we're looking for the professional development, the systemic standards, the systems that we have put in place and articulated. So we're looking for that. Then we go out into the hallway and we powwow. Now we powwow because I want to hear from the business manager, from your perspective. Do you see what you're supposed to see? And do you understand why we need to identify the funding stream for that to happen? I want to hear from the head of human resources. Did you see the characteristics of why you hired that person, et cetera? So you're always, this is my time. Oh my goodness. It was my glory moment to be able to teach. You heard my claim to fame. You read it in the bio. You said I was Teacher of the Year for elementary for Baltimore City. Yes. And that was my claim to fame. So teaching, getting it out into the classroom so that my babies, the children, can learn. The children can't learn if the teachers don't have it. If the teachers didn't get it, then it's our responsibility to love up on them. What teachers want to know, where am I supposed to be at 9 o'clock? What am I supposed to do at 9:30, at 10 o'clock? Tell me, and I will get it done. That's the beauty. And that's the wonderful part about being a superintendent, because you are constantly teaching. That's how I can say that I served 5 districts and they all became good standing.
Good standing. There it is. There it is.
Wait, let me say one more thing.
Oh, yeah, go
It's
ahead.
ugly shoes. Ugly shoes. You can wear red bottoms, but you better be able to get around to your buildings in comfort. So those ugly shoes, it doesn't mean that they're ugly and ugly and worn out, but they are comfortable enough for you to get around. Let me recommend Clark's. I can recommend a lot of brands, but you have to be able, you can be cutie on duty, but your feet must be able to sustain the systems that you have put in place.
I think I learned that the hard way. I have bad feet. Some of it's my new diabetes, but I know I was wearing stuff that was probably too tight back in them days. That leather and them hard soles and all that kind of stuff. Walking them halls all day. But I want to throw another question at you all before we go to those talking points. We got a little time. I'm gonna stay with you, Dr. Wortham, in terms of sequence. I'm known to say, in fact, it's the reason that I wrote the Assistant Principal 50, that the assistant principalship, in my strongest opinion, is the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education. When I walk into a school as a consultant on a school day, and I see an assistant principal as a disciplinarian and cafeteria duty person from the time the students walk into the building until the time that they leave the building, and yet this person supervises and evaluates a portion of the staff, then I have to wonder, and ultimately I ask the question, when does this person coach and mentor and lead instructionally these particular teachers that he supervises, that she supervises? Is it that we're just doing the formal evaluation, the summative, and rewarding this teacher? It could be so much more effective if I was that coach. So my question to the three of you, I'll start with Dr. Wortham. What is the role of the superintendent toward ensuring that the principal understands his or her role toward making the assistant principal a phenomenal instructional leader? Because that's got to trickle from somewhere. Because if it's just organic, then the tradition across America, not to paint with a broad brush on the entire country, but the places that I'm invited to go and work with, the assistant principal, the instructional leadership, being in classrooms, having those conversations with staff in a pre and post context is somewhere on the bottom of the podium of the totem pole, right? So talk to us about the role of superintendent toward ultimately getting to that AP. I'll start with you.
Love it. You are on rapid fire with these questions today because I love it.
I appreciate it.
Honestly, at one point, as an assistant principal, I thought it was the worst job in the world.
Yeah, same here.
I did. And so all of the, I'm just going to hold this up. Yep. Setting the atmosphere. There we go.
Put it up better so the lighting doesn't, so it's just hold it back up so that we can see it good. Cause you got that virtual background.
Yeah.
And it's messing with you a little bit.
Okay. All right. Google it.
Yeah.
All right. So the life's work is right there. And let me just be an assistant principal for a minute. And so the principal then decided that I would be, just as you said, I would open the building. I would make sure that the children came in without any discipline problems. I would make sure that they had breakfast. I would make sure that they got to class. Wait, where's the instruction in all of that? Wait, and then I would circle and then do every lunch shift. So wait a minute, where's my master's in reading? When do I use that? So I had to do this. I had to learn to build relationships with 700 students. I learned, and this was when Oprah was in Baltimore, but I learned the power of the microphone, a cordless microphone. And I would walk and talk with the young people, 700. Kids would get there early just so that we could have a morning meeting. So while she banished me, she told me she had a dream that I was the principal of the boiler room. So assistant principals feel that way for a reason. However, I learned confidence in public speaking with the young people. You banished me to the cafeteria for all the lunch periods. I invited the parents to come in. We created a finer diner, changed the atmosphere. Finer diner moms, finer diner dads. I bought them aprons and they had chef's hats. And if you all are really good and put your, napkin in your lap, then one day we're going to go to a restaurant. And we did. And so I made it something. So then I asked for a transfer. And I went to the largest elementary school on the East Coast as an assistant principal, as an instructional leader. But I took with all of the things that I was banished to do, but now became my jewels and my treasure. So as a superintendent, knowing that I need assistant principals, I need principals to build a legacy. So my challenge is, principals, what are you doing? And then you take it another step further. You don't have to ask the principals, what are you doing to develop the assistant principals? When you meet with principals, you meet with the assistant principals as well, and you feed them simultaneously at the same time. So the assistant principals are to assist in the work while you are waiting to step forward and just do it together.
Yeah.
When you're banished, take advantage of it and make it a treasure instead of something negative. Principals, build your confidence, build the confidence and capacity of the assistant principals. We all do the learning walks together. There are no titles, no first name, no last name. Everybody is on the same level.
Love it. Love it. Let me go to Dr. Vincent with the same question.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Deborah, for that story. It reminds me when I was an assistant principal for the first time, and I was doing all of the discipline. And my principal expected for me to be in classrooms a certain number of times, and I was unable to do that. And so I received a written reprimand because I was doing all of the discipline for my grade level. My grade level was popping, right? I took that written reprimand personally, and I said, how do you want me to do all of this discipline and all of these observations? And so he just said, you got to do it. And although it hurt my feelings, he was correct. It was my job to do both. And although I was angry with him, and we have remained friends all throughout my career, I was better for it. As I became superintendent, when I hired APs or when APs were matched with principals, we have done our best to match them with degree areas, specialty areas, one who's math certified, social studies, with English, so that they're matched up. And we do have assistant principal meetings and principal meetings together in the summer. And then throughout the year, the APs meet as a group to go over data. The expectation from the principals is that they hold the assistant principals accountable for the observations, and then those are sent in electronically where they're monitored. And the principal's job is to help monitor and then review those observations with their assistant principals. So just as Dr. Deborah has mentioned, the expectation is that we're all looking at instruction because it takes all of us. The last thing a principal wants to do, I'm sure, when I had assistant principals is write up and a written reprimand for the person that you work the most closely with. So it's better to coach them up than to have to reprimand in writing.
Yeah.
The expectation is that as a team, that we all move the student achievement forward. And when we met with the team, we said, you are our team, and we expect for the whole school to move. And the principal, you're the leader. However, with your APs, this is what we expect of all of you. And so we give them the support that they needed to get that job done.
So before I go to Dr. Roberto, you just said something that I just need to respond to. Talk to us. So you got an AP and a principal does what you just said, feels the need to write up, as they would say, write a written memorandum to the assistant principal about the assistant principal as a memorandum of correction, and it's got to go into their file. And now, let me speak from the vantage point of Kafele, and then I'm gonna give it to you.
Okay.
Now, to me, from my vantage point, that relationship is permanently fractured. I don't, and again, this is me. So, my little 2 cents of someone, and we're not even talking about the superintendent now, we're talking about the principal. If
Yes.
if I have to write up my right-hand man or woman, I don't know that we bounce back from that. I don't know. I want to hear from you though. And if
Yes.
others want to chime in, then go ahead and chime in. What are your thoughts about when it gets to that level? It gets to that point that I gotta write you up now.
So I'll speak to when it happened to me in 2007, 8, 9. It was a long time ago. I was a first year AP. Um, because this person was already my had been my friend for a long time, I did take it personally, and it did hurt my feelings. And I immediately, went into his office and said, "What is this? You could have talked to me about this. You didn't have to write this up, and you didn't have to send this to HR. What is this?" And so we already had a relationship. And so I felt that I could go directly to him and ask, why did you feel the need? You could have told me that you needed this, this, and this. In other situations, that may not be the case, but it did not. I was upset with him for a little bit, but I moved past it. I'm not the type of person to hold a grudge. I learned from it. I you know moved through it, and it did not prevent me from becoming principal in that particular district or anything else, or superintendent in another district. It did not move any further than that, but I can see how it would fracture a relationship if there is not already a strong relationship prior to that particular written reprimand. I would not suggest that principals do that with their assistant principals. I would suggest that there is a discussion that happens first,
Yeah.
prior to a written reprimand, because I don't think that you can come back from that, especially when you have to work in tandem, especially in a turnaround situation. There's too much that has to happen, and trust is such a two-way street. And when you break down trust, and then you have to work together, it's hard to regain trust. And as I've said so many times, that trust is much more valuable than knowledge and skill. You can learn things. I can teach you things, but what I can't get back from you is trust. And so um, I would suggest a conversation. I would suggest, how can I help you get better at getting to the classrooms? Can I take some of the discipline for you? Can we divide this discipline between the two APs instead of you doing all of the discipline because your grade level is off the chain, because that's what it was, before I do a written reprimand? But it happened. I moved past it. He moved past it. We're still friends today. And then, and it made me better because it made me focus on my time management. And then I was able to move throughout the school year. As an adjunct professor today, I would suggest to my future principals, that's not my first line of correction. I would talk to them. I would offer assistance. I would offer a line of some other correction, and then get to the point of reprimand. But some people feel that I give people too many chances.
But
I
you know
don't
that
know.
that last part you just said is so key relative to the audience, the fam that is on here right now.
Yeah,
Because at the end of the day, unless you have the authority to move that person out of your building, if
yeah,
that person's pretty much married to that building for the year and therefore married to you, it's
yeah,
got to work one way or the other. And
yeah,
and I don't know that it's going to work through a reprimand in writing. But the conversation that you just talked about, and this thread is loaded with with the same comments. I think that's so crucial. Now this topic has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about.
no, it doesn't. I'm
But
sorry.
no. But no, it was relevant to your answer.
Yes,
I don't mean it that way. I don't mean that it's not relevant. It was relevant to your response to the question, and I felt the need to veer left, veer right, so that we could have that conversation too. Because I'm always thinking about who's on the other side of my camera, and
yes,
it's a lot of young administrators, and folks somebody could be in a relationship right now. I can't stand my assistant principal, or that
yeah,
assistant principal. I can't stand this principal. right?
That's right.
So I think they need to hear this in terms of how we move forward. So
Yeah.
taking the risk of opening up the floor to Dr. Roberto and Wortham to add their 2 cents, we probably have to do a part 2 of our discussion today, because we never got, we still didn't get to the talking points. But and I don't mind doing a part 2. I do them with people all the time.
That
But
would be great.
does anybody want to chime in on that?
You know,
I know
I'll
y'all
be
do.
I'll be brief, and I will just chime in. I think all of you have made some really valid points, and also really appreciate the experiences that you've shared. Again, I always go back to, you know, my own lived experience. I've been in situations where I've been super thankful to have excellent mentor principals as a vice principal. You take the things that work from them and you build them into who you really are. And I think they're lessons learned, things you wouldn't do and things you would do. But I always came out of my partner relationships as principal, vice principal, built on not only trust, but it's ongoing communication. And it's always about, at some point, that gradual release of responsibility. I think I'm going to be doing this. This is how I'm going to execute this, right? Am I missing anything? What do you think? And always a debrief. You know, what do you think I could do differently? What do you think I could do better? But I also think it's incumbent upon you as a vice principal to also advocate. And what I mean by that, and to be assertive in your own learning continuum. So what do you actually need, right? And you really have to look inward to look at your strengths and your areas of growth. And the only way you can do that is get feedback, timely and rapid. And I'm going to tell you, honest feedback, because there's no ego in this if you want to improve in your work, right? It is all about separating the person from the profession, right? It's not about, oh, you know, I'm really down now because, versus, right? How am I going to get better at this? Because at the end of the day, I got to stand on my own 2 feet. And so those have been my lessons learned and things that I've imparted, both as mentor, mentee. I can currently say in our district, we've built 2 really strong foundational aspects of our work. And that is, you got to know your administrators, you got to know your school profiles, and you got to know their strengths, their needs. And it's really important as to who you match them with. It is a skill set, right? Sometimes you outsource, right, and you complement one another. But the only way you can do that is if my superintendents are in those schools and they're able to know who their principals and vice principals are and understand their needs and their strengths. Because you also have to grow them. So where do they go next? And I think that that's an important aspect of our work. And we are very committed to them in creating conditions for them to learn with each other. Family of schools meetings once a month. They have principal, vice principal networks. Those are important aspects of the work. We have opened system committees that are open to all principals and vice principals. So it's all about creating conditions and opportunities. And we have a very strong mentor-mentee program whereby it's not even though you're in your school with your principal who is your mentor 24/7, right? We also pair cross-district. And that gives a VP an opportunity to build a relationship with someone else, and to be vulnerable and be able to have other conversations with another caring administrator. So we build and elevate the capacity of the mentors, not only in their schools. So what is the role of the principal and vice principal? How do we create conditions for them? But then also, how do we create mentor-mentee programs for our principals and vice principals? Because we need to have great principals who are mentoring up and coming vice principals into these roles. And we need to have vice principals who know what it's like and what it feels like, because one day they're going to be a mentor. And so that is our philosophy and our approach to our work.
You know, that's powerful stuff. And we off script, but we still relevant. And I want to stay off script for a second. I know that there's like 3 questions on the table right now, but let me throw another one at you, because you said something that triggered something else. What from the vantage point of the superintendent, what happens when you know that there's like a school, it could be just a principal at AP, it could be a principal in multiple APs. What happens when you know that there's friction between a principal and an AP under your watch? At what point do you step in, if ever? Anybody can jump in on that one. Or do you just let it work itself out? Are you behind the scenes working with the principal? What? Talk to us.
You know there is friction, and you must model that. You must intercede, because if you don't, it's going to fester and it's going to grow. And then before you know it, you'll wonder why teachers are at odds and why students are at odds, because the environment from the top is toxic. It doesn't smell good. It doesn't feel good. And so when I said the 4-20-80, 4 visits to the classroom by the principal, by the assistant principals as well, then that really does increase the visibility and the articulation and the love, because that's what it's all about, building that repertoire of goodness, wholeness in your building. I will tell you that as a superintendent, since 2008, since 2008, I did a morning message. That means that every morning I would broadcast at least for 2 minutes. That seems like a little bit of time, but that's a long time. 2 minutes. And I would give the entire district, secretaries, custodians, everybody had to log on and give them that spiritual vitamin, if you will. Help to change the attitude. Something might have happened at home, but you pressed your way to come to school. Hurt people hurt people. And so it's not an I, me, my, mine. It's we, us together. And we've got to cultivate that all the time. When I left as superintendent, a parent of a pre-K child said, I'm going to miss Dr. Wortham because she made us happy every morning. When are we making people happy? When are we sharing the joy? So when there is a disconnect, and for any listeners out there, the disconnect, I gave it a name. 2 people. I called one French and one fry. And everybody knew about French fry. Hey, stop it. Let's bring this thing together, because we cannot soar if we cannot seal and sit together and let some of this stuff just go away. It's got to happen. Love is the key, lavish. And usually when people are at odds, it's because they don't know the work and the wealth. They don't know the work and they don't know their wealth. So it's up to us to help them to know the work and to breed the wealth.
Know the work and breed the wealth. You know, so much more that I know we could talk about, because 3 of you, 4 of us on here. But I'm looking at the time, and I definitely don't want to monopolize your day. As if you've watched this platform before, then the people who are regulars on here know that I overplan all 231 sessions. I'm putting these things together on the airplane or in the hotel room, and I'm getting excited. Then I forget, but I did ask them for talking points, and I never get, so then I wind up bringing guests back on. Because it's so late, I don't want to open up that can of worms with the talking points. Let me just give you this last question. And then when we're offline, if we could nail down a date today, if not, then we'll do it later. And then we'll come back and we'll just pick up from where we leave off, because we get ready to go on 2 hours in a second, right? So let me know we're there. So let me ask you this. I want to stay along the same line of thinking. We can go around to all 3 of us here. And I appreciate all these comments that you all are giving, because people loving this conversation. But y'all ain't heard nothing yet, because you didn't hear the talking points. So definitely when I give the date, y'all got to come back now. Listen, same line of thinking. You got an aspiring administrator, I should say, goes to grad school and wants to be an administrator. and then they may read some books or maybe part of this family on Saturday mornings and other things that they do, go to conferences, PLNs, institutes, lectures, the whole nine of professional learning. And then ultimately they interview and land a position. Now we all know, and I wouldn't know this about your districts because we didn't have the conversation, but we know that there are also these pipelines that an aspiring leader may go through before they're hired. So the district has a better grasp of who this individual is because of this training that we did beyond grad school. So my question to you is this: from the vantage point of the superintendent, again, because that's who we got on the screen, what are your thoughts in terms of ideally what that transition should be from grad school to being an administrator in my district? Is it just going to grad school, interviewing well, and getting the position, or do you take the wheel? And now there's some other things that you do that are going to be done before we feel comfortable in offering you a position. Now, I want to give you one of two ways to answer that question. You don't have to answer it personally, as I say to most of my guests, but I failed to say it to you. You can answer it as a consultant and just give what you feel is the answer, or you can answer it personally in terms of what it is that you do. That's your choice. I'm not going to call on anybody. Whoever wants to jump in here, go first.
I'll go first. I think the best way, Principal Kafele, is to have a pipeline built within your system. Grad school teaches you idealistically. I teach it every week. Idealistically, and we use your texts, right? Idealistically, this is what it should look like. But what it really looks like is something totally different. And so in order for people to truly be ready, as Doc says, Dr. Deborah says, truly be ready to see the children, the parents, the teachers, the situations, the crying, the fallout, the everything that happens in real life. I believe that every district should have a formalized, we have informal, right? Pipeline, whether you are on a small leadership team, a team leader, future leaders team that meets with the principals, the assistant principals to review data so that you learn how to do that, so that you are assigned to duty stations so that you can analyze discipline, so that you can watch and monitor, help the assistant principals know what to do in the case of an absence of someone. All of those things are important skills that we can teach people before they get into the seat. I did not know what to do as a superintendent until I got the contract and signed it and showed up on July 1. Nobody told me what to do until I got there. If there were a pipeline that would have shown me what to do before I got there, when I got there, I would have known, oh, this is how I start, right? So I think that we're doing ourselves a disservice by just doing grad school, a great interview, you sign the contract, you get there, and then you're learning as you go. My suggestion, and it's based on everything that I've seen over the last 28 years, is that we have a formalized pipeline teaching people what to do, how to do, what our expectations are, what it looks like in real life, matching it to what idealistically we're teaching them in grad school, so that when they get into the seat, they hit it and they are hitting it running, and we don't have to stop to say, okay, this is what you learned, but this is real life. They know what to do and they can do it well, and our children are better for it.
I love it. Anybody else want to jump in?
I'll just quickly jump in. I think it's incumbent upon a school district to create a program or a pathway for us to build leaders. That is one of my responsibilities as the CEO of the organization.
Mm.
And so I think it's a really important aspect. And the way you build this program or this pathway is by leveraging the administrators that you have in the system. Because they become the face to those programs. They become the connection to those people. And the more pathways you create, the better opportunities you have for a district. I don't believe that it is necessarily you go from here to here, and there has to be like steps in between. I think that there are opportunities within systems, within schools that create leadership pathways for the individuals to grow in. And I think, like I said, we got to nurture the programming, not only before you step into the role. Right? In my district, I have a profile that they have to build to look at evidence of impact in a variety of areas, from accountability to instructional programming to building relationships. But it's not about just those markers. It's about what are you doing to grow your leadership at all times. And that's my responsibility. Just because you're in the role of superintendent or director doesn't mean that your leadership learning stops. And I think that that's a really important piece that you have to take and look at it within your district to say, what are we offering? What is our leadership mandate or our policy or our outlook? What are our programs that we're offering for everyone? And it's not just about becoming a vice principal and principal. There are lots of other leadership roles and lots of other folks that we have to elevate, again, in the district to be leaders in their own right.
You know,
So I guess I can just
before you go, Doc, I want
Mhm.
to throw something at you with that. I want your response to the question on the table, but let's look at Heidi and merge that in. She said aspiring AP here, going up against others who have experience as an AP is tough. I have many experiences as part of the campus leadership team, but when it comes to hiring an AP, people would rather hire the experienced AP. How do I go up against that? So your response that you were going to give, but can you infuse Heidi into it?
Sure. You know, this is amazing because I was just going to lift up one word, and that is systems.
Mm.
Systems. How can how can an AP get experience if you never give them the opportunity? And so you have to have systems. I'm gonna probably leave it. I'm pretty much right there. But the systems for learning, and I made it no shame that in every district that I took over, I had a mentor. And because it was a requirement of the state that you have a mentor, regardless of how many years you brought to the table to that state. And so I would say, as a superintendent, we have to have systems in place for learning. And I learned that from a teacher. And the teacher said, we always provide uh, workshops so that we can benefit, so that the children can benefit. When do we focus on us? And so we turned the tide and we said, let's focus on learning for everybody. And when you level the playing field and everyone becomes a learner, including the superintendent, then we can inhale and exhale. Systems must be in place. When I took over that district that had been taken over by the state for 12 years, the only district in the state, the the chancellor gave me a book and said, read this. And that was growth mindset. And he said, one other thing, create systems. So when we create systems, then there's no fragmentation. People or practices don't fall through the cracks. Create a system for learning for everyone.
Love it, love it, love it. You know, Heidi, I'm gonna say this to you as well, Heidi Matthews. Sometimes this may not be your situation, but I'm just going to throw it out there for you and everybody else that's on here that's got interviews coming up at some point this year. For years, many years, more years than I can recall. I was getting inboxes and emails from people who had interviews approaching, and they were looking for advice from me. So these were people I don't know, just strangers from all over America, and I'm literally responding to people, upwards of 7 different people a day, 7 days a week. It was just so much, and I'm responding, and I'm never hearing back from them. And I got to a point where I said, enough of this. I said, let me just put the information out there. So I made these 2 45-minute videos on, and they're on YouTube on the channel for this platform, AP and New Principals Academy. There's a playlist there. But these 2 videos in particular, thoughts to consider for the assistant principal job interview. What I found, based on the information I got from all these folks that watched the video, it's got like 165,000 views or something like that. And the folks were saying that they interviewed for years. I mean, that this is like the common sentiment. They interviewed for years, but could not get hired. They watched the videos that I recorded, and they say now they got multiple job offers, right? So what that said to me was they didn't know how to interview. Now, my hope is always, as I always say, that they didn't just interview well, but then ineffective on the job, right? We want you to go in there, and we want you to be not good when you get started because you're learning, but go in there that so folks know that there's a wealth of potential in you. So I'm saying that to you, Heidi, to say, go to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel, scroll down to the playlist, and look for those 2 videos, thoughts to consider for the assistant principal job interview. And maybe you're interviewing and you're not responding to the questions the way that the interviewer would want you to respond. I don't give you the answers to the questions because I don't know the questions. What I tell you is how to go in there and get the job. And apparently there are very few places. You know, I travel extensively as a presenter. It's a rare day that I'm in a room and there's not somebody in that room that comes up to me and says, "Thank you, sir, Principal Kafele. I'm in this position because of your video." It's a rare, I don't care what state I'm in this country, it's a rare day that someone doesn't come up to me and thank me because they're attributing their having the position to those videos. Then, of course, I got the principal video, which I did live on this platform. So that's there as well. Same scenario, right? So just want you to know that that's out there. Now, as far as the 4 of us, we'll talk offline and come up with another day, because we got, with your talking points, we got like another 2 hours of content, right? So we got to do a part 2, but I do want to do the rapid fire right now. That's important. So let's go to our rapid fire, which I call my BAM impact questions. All I need is a 1-sentence or 1-word answer. Let me put this on the screen to make my point. Derek said, "I'm one of those people." Thank you, Principal Kafele. See, and that's what it is, man. It's and I'm proud of them videos. I got to tell you. Matter of fact, y'all stay on for a second. I'm talking about the fam now. Let me holler at you for a second. I gotta preach this to you real quick. I'm gonna give you the short version. I have those videos out there, and there are people in my world, in my orbit, who question why I would put that kind of free content out there. They're out there. Those people have been in my ear. But I also have, as I put on the screen a little while ago today, the 9 hours of content on becoming a professional speaker. You better best believe I got people in my ears on that one, because those contents can generate millions for me. I didn't say a million, I said millions for me, right? Those are $100,000 weekends, right? And then I got the 5 hours of videos for that person that wants to write the best-selling book. Not write the book, but the best-selling book. All that stuff's on YouTube for free. It's people in both ears like, Kafele, are you losing it as you're getting older? Why are you giving this stuff away? And my response, y'all will be able to relate to this. I said, because you don't know my relation to my maker. You don't understand that. So to you, I'm doing something ridiculous. But to me, I'm getting blessed beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. So I'm good with that. I ain't, because I'll start preaching. So I'm saying to somebody out there, yes, make your money. But I'm also saying, don't let like those of you that like talk to people like you got certain advice. Don't The only time you're gonna give something is when they give you a paycheck. Because God watching you. If you got something, let it be times in your year that you just give it because it will come back. Right? I don't respect people that the only time they talk to people is when there's a paycheck attached to it. I can't respect that. Then you're a walking business. When does your humanity come out? Right? There's got to be a human side of you that just, I want to help you to become better at this thing that you're chasing right now. Right? So that's where I come in. There's a lot of I shouldn't be saying this publicly because some of the clients might not like this, but there's some places I go, man. It's like, Kafele, could you come on and do this and that? Yeah, I'll be there. How much does we got to pay you? I said I'm gonna be there, right? I'll be there. That's it. So so you gotta have that side of you too. Enough said. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Let's go. Sometimes you just gotta squeeze in some things, man. Little commercial on people, right? So let's go. Dr. Wortham, number 1. Is education on the right path for underserved children?
I believe that education is on the right path for undeserved children because I believe that our children must receive the best. And I believe that the
Oh,
best is yet to come. That was 2 sentences.
you good. Can true equity occur in American schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes,
Does Dr. Deborah Wortham's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
absolutely.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
It would be the same on steroids.
Why do you continue to do this work?
At 75, I can't give up.
Can't give up. What fires you up within the work that you do?
Knowing that I am true to a commitment that I made as a teenager to be the best that you can be, which means developing others. That fires me up every day.
And what do you love about the work you do?
I love the smiles on the faces of the young people and the adults that say thank you.
Dr. Roberto, what do you dislike about the work you do? Did you answer? If you did, you're muted. You're muted. That's what it is.
I'm muted. I
Yeah.
apologize.
No problem.
I want to pause on that one. I got to think about that one.
Yeah, think about it. Okay, no problem. What has been your greatest victory in your work thus far?
Building a strong leadership team.
What was your greatest mistake in your work thus far? That might be one of the ones you want to think about too.
There may be a few. I think just in general, I think making sure that you always have the pulse of what's happening in your district and respond in a very proactive manner. And I think that you got to remind yourself about that. You can't be at the bequest of pressures when you don't have all your facts to be able to deliver. And I think that's an important part of.
Well, you're getting long. Hey, rapid fire.
I know.
All right, here we go. What has been your greatest challenge in this work?
My greatest.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
My greatest challenge in this work, improving student achievement.
Are you proud of your first year? And I never asked you this question, so I hope it's relevant. Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
As an assistant principal?
Yeah.
That's like almost 20 years ago, you know.
That's all right. You remember it?
Yeah, I am proud. Yeah.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
100%.
Who inspires you in your work?
My family.
Very good. Dr. Vincent, what are you reading right now? It could be a book, but it could be an article, blog, tweet, anything.
I am reading. I'll come back to that because Taste for More. It's a book that we're reading in our sorority.
Oh, okay. Do me a favor,
Okay.
y'all. I got to scream at my son real quick. He's loud on
Okay, go ahead.
the second.
Scream. Oh, he really meant scream.
All right, my son was on the phone too loud, man. All right,
Okay.
here we go. Where we at? Where we at? Okay. What
A
book?
Taste for More. It's a book for a book club for my sorority.
Oh, okay. That's AKA, right?
No, I'm Delta. My
Ooh,
sister's AKA. It's
that's
okay. It's all
not
the
cool
same.
what I just did,
Well,
right?
we love
It's
your
okay.
sister too. Tell my soror I said hello.
I will. She's on here. I'm sure she'll chime in.
Until I said skiwi.
I will. I'll deliver the message.
What book would you recommend for our viewers this afternoon, Dr. Vincent?
So the book that I use for my class is My School a Better School Because I Lead It.
I love it. I love it. I'm blessed.
Yep.
What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
The completion of my book, 8 Ways to Survive the Superintendency. I think that it's going to be prolific for superintendents to know what it takes to survive and stay in the superintendent role for longer than 2.5 years, which is the country's average.
Love it. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally right now in your life?
Yes, I am. I'm retired and I'm consulting and coaching, and I am loving the freedom and the fun.
What could you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Keep knocking at the doors because one is going to be open for you, and the one that opens for you is the one that is for you.
What could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
Sometimes you have to relight your own fire. It's not up to anybody else to light your fire. It's yours.
If Dr. Shannon Vincent was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Ooh, that's a good one. Relentless.
If where we at? If Dr. Deborah Wortham was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Determined.
If Dr. Joanna Roberto was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Actualize.
Love it. Hey y'all, this was powerful. This was great stuff. Hey folks on the call, you know how we applaud our guests. Those of you who are veterans, we just give them our favorite emojis in whatever platform you're on. So let us know how you felt. But before I bring my emoji out, I gotta highlight y'all went crazy when Dr. Wortham said her age.
She doesn't look it.
Let me just put this.
Amazing.
Yeah, y'all was like, what? Yeah. So there's a few more in there somewhere because I seen them. They kept coming. But let me keep those emojis coming. If today's session resonated with you, if you enjoyed it, if you got something out of it, if you found that there were things that could be implemented into what you wanted, what you're doing. If it was just a good session, just give us those emojis. Let them know that that's the way we applaud them. So let them know that you enjoyed the time you spent with us this morning. As I get my emoji, I get my Louisville Slugger out here and go to the plate, and y'all hit grand slams every time you came to the plate. Four runs batted in each time. So you hit it out the park, hit it right out of Yankee Stadium. And I loved every minute of it. So I appreciate you. Our folks are Dr. Roberto. I'm not sure, but I know that Dr. Vincent and Wortham are presenters and authors and all that good stuff. So Dr. Wortham, how do they get in touch with you if they want to bring you through to work with the staff for a day or do a keynote or whatever it is they want?
Absolutely. You can definitely go to my website, and that is drdeborah.com. DrDeborahLWortham.com.
Y'all see that? So one word, DrDeborahLWortham.com, right? And I'm sure she'd love to come through. Convocation, keynote for PD or full day workshop, half day workshop, full contract consultant, whatever it is. That's what she does, right? At 75. I'm only saying it because you put it out there, right? So that's what she does. Dr. Vincent does the same thing. How do we get in touch with you? And thank you for this. Haywood John put it up there for us.
Oh, okay. Well, you can reach me by email at drshannon15@gmail.com. And my website is drshannoncc.wixsite.com.
All right. So you see the spelling there, Shannon. And then
Yes.
so just go on and reach out to her. And then you see Dr. Wortham there. And
Yes.
then Dr. Roberta, you doing any consulting?
No, I'm not at this time under my contract, but I do a lot of talks. If you need them to be done, you're happy to reach out. I can do them virtually, gratis. They're all gratis. So Joanna.roberto@granderie.ca.
Give us that one more time.
Joanna.roberto@granderie.ca.
Good stuff. And I should have also asked the three of you, as far as I don't know what your social media presence is. That's why I didn't tag you on all these posts I wrote the other on Thursday. But how can they just follow you on social media? We'll start with you, Dr. Wortham.
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn, and it's just my name, Dr. Deborah Wortham. Same thing on Facebook and Twitter, Dr. D. Worth.
There you go. Dr. Vincent.
I'm Shannon Vincent on Facebook and Dr. Shannon Vincent on the gram.
There you go. And Dr. Roberto.
Dr. Joanna Roberto on Instagram.
There you go. So that's it, folks. Any closing thoughts to the fam? From either of you?
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. Anybody else? Any closing thoughts?
I'll just say thank you so much for having us. Looking forward to part 2. And what I tell everybody, keep leading.
Keep leading.
Thank you so much for having us. Keep rising. Keep rising.
Love it. Let me close out. Y'all stay on. When I go off, stay there, and then we'll talk off mic real quick, off camera. Hey, folks. Hey, fam. Appreciate you being here. Glad you're here every week. 231 was another phenomenal session. So next week we go to 232. I got this young lady. You might know her, Dr. Wortham. Dr. Ashina Baez is going to be my guest, a New Yorker. And her topic, I pulled it up on my phone real quick, and let me just get it for you. Her topic is the impact of emotional efficacy on leadership effectiveness. I decided we go one-on-one. The impact of emotional efficacy on leadership effectiveness. So that'll be Dr. Baez. She's an author of many books, and we'll be here at 10:55. So plan to be with us, folks. Next Saturday, 10 o'clock, Facebook Live, Sean Hurt, followed by Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor at 10:30. Yours truly, myself, at 10:55. That's Super Saturday. And then Sunday, we rounded out with PDP Podcast, Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno. That'll be at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. My books, you know what they are, so make sure you go to Amazon and check them out, but also be on the lookout for the new one, which you can now pre-order at ASCD. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? Make sure that you subscribe to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. Hit that button and subscribe to it, and then hit the notifications bell so that you can be notified if you forget that we're live, right, off of YouTube. Like and follow the AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. I'll have a commentary up tomorrow morning, not later than 10 o'clock. So make sure that you like and follow that page. We got about 10,000 plus on there now. So let's see if we can increase that. And then visit the website, principalkafele.com. And finally, your diet. Make sure you're eating right, your exercise. I'm gonna get out there, y'all. I'm sleep deprived right now. I flew to Vegas yesterday and flew back the same day. That's insanity, right? But I got homesick. I just didn't want to be in Las Vegas. Any other city, I probably would have been content. I don't love Vegas. I don't know what it is, but I don't love the Vegas Strip. Let me say that. I don't dislike Vegas, but I don't love the Vegas Strip. You know, it's just it's just a street of tourism. And I said, let me get up out of here and go home. So I went home. So here I am, landed at 6 a.m. and the only sleep I got was what I did on the plane, and that's minimal. But I'm going to get outside and do me about 2 miles, and then I'm going to come in and chill. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you get the exercise in. And then those virus precautions, y'all. It's stuff out there, y'all. It's stuff out there. I think I might go to the drugstore and get me a few shots. Give me a flu shot. Get me a COVID shot. Get me a RSV shot. I'm good on a pneumonia shot. Somebody, and don't get on there talking about, you don't need all that. Hey man, when you fly as much as I do, you want to safeguard yourself as much as you can, because them people are coughing on them airplanes, man. They are sneezing on them airplanes. And I'm gonna tell you something else about those folks on them planes. They don't believe in covering their mouths too much. You know, forget like I'll be all like this. They be like, I'm like, man, you ain't serious, are you? Right? So so I gotta make sure that I take care of me, man, because it's some nasty people on the airplanes. Other than that, y'all, I appreciate you. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Now cock that fist back all the way. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I see y'all next Saturday, man. Y'all have a phenomenal week.